Picture this. A young girl stands at the edge of a frozen lake in rural Michigan, her breath forming small clouds in the bitter winter air. She's holding a pair of ice skates that are 3 sizes too big, hand-me-downs from a neighbor who took pity on her family's circumstances. This girl has never been on ice before, but she's watching other children glide effortlessly across the surface, and something deep inside her whispers that she belongs out there too. Her name is Christy Yamaguchi, and she's about to take her first tentative steps toward becoming an Olympic champion. But here's what makes this moment extraordinary. Christy was born with a clubfoot, a condition that required her to wear corrective shoes and leg braces until she was 5 years old. The very thing that should have kept her off the ice became the foundation of her unshakable determination. What is it about some people that makes them rise from setbacks that would crush others? Why do certain individuals seem to possess an almost supernatural ability to transform their deepest struggles into their greatest strengths? The answer lies in something scientists call resilience, but it's far more complex and beautiful than most people realize. Resilience isn't just about bouncing back, it's about bouncing forward, using adversity as a catalyst for growth and transformation that wouldn't have been possible any other way. As Christy laced up those oversized skates for the first time, her brain was already doing something remarkable. Neuroscientists have discovered that when we face challenges, especially as children, our brains undergo a process called neuroplasticity. This is the brain's ability to reorganize itself, forming new neural connections and pathways. But here's the fascinating part. The brains of resilient people don't just adapt, they optimize. They create what researchers call stress inoculation, where manageable doses of adversity actually strengthen the neural networks responsible for emotional regulation, problem solving, and perseverance. Dr. Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology, spent decades studying this phenomenon. He found that resilient people share a specific way of thinking about setbacks that he calls the 3 Ps. They don't take things personally, they don't see problems as permanent, and they don't let difficulties become pervasive, affecting every area of their lives. When Christy fell on the ice for the 100th time that first day, she didn't think, "I'm clumsy," or "I'll never be good at this," or "I'm a failure at everything." Instead, her young mind processed it differently. "I'm still learning. This will get easier with practice, and I just need to work on my balance." This isn't just positive thinking. It's what psychologists call cognitive flexibility, and it's one of the most powerful predictors of resilience we know. The ancient Stoic philosophers understood this concept thousands of years before we had brain scans to prove it. Epictetus, who was born a slave and later became one of history's greatest teachers of wisdom, taught that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. He knew from brutal personal experience that our minds had the power to transform any circumstance into an opportunity for growth. The science behind this is breathtaking. When resilient people encounter stress, their brains show increased activity. In the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for executive function and emotional regulation. At the same time, they show decreased activity in the amygdala, the brain's alarm system. It's as if they've trained their minds to stay calm and think clearly precisely when others would panic. This isn't a gift they were born with. It's a skill they developed through practice, often without even realizing it. Christy's journey from that frozen lake to Olympic gold wasn't a straight line. There were injuries, defeats, moments of doubt that felt overwhelming. But each setback became data, information her brain used to build stronger neural pathways. When she was 13, she fell during a crucial competition, a fall that cost her the championship she trained years to win. The devastation was real, the tears were genuine, but something remarkable happened in the weeks that followed. Instead of dwelling on the disappointment, she became obsessed with understanding exactly why she fell. She studied video footage, frame by frame, adjusted her technique, and came back the next season stronger than ever. This response pattern reveals something profound about resilience. Resilient people don't avoid negative emotions. They feel them fully and then use them as fuel. They practice what psychologists call emotional granularity, the ability to distinguish between different types of negative feelings with precision. Instead of just feeling bad after a setback, they can identify whether they're disappointed, frustrated, angry, or sad. This precise emotional vocabulary allows them to address the root cause of their feelings and respond more effectively. The Buddha taught something remarkably similar 2,500 years ago when he spoke about the second arrow of suffering. The first arrow is what happens to us, the inevitable pain that comes with being human. The second arrow is what we do to ourselves afterward with our thoughts and reactions. Resilient people get hit by the first arrow, just like everyone else. But they're masters at avoiding the second one. They don't compound their pain with self-blame, catastrophic thinking, or endless rumination. Modern neuroscience has revealed the biological basis for this ancient wisdom. When we practice mindfulness and emotional awareness, we strengthen the neural pathways between our prefrontal cortex and our limbic system. This creates what researchers call top-down regulation, where our thinking mind can effectively calm our emotional brain. It's like building a better communication system within ourselves, one that allows reason and emotion to work together instead of against each other. But resilience isn't just an individual trait, it's also deeply social. The most resilient people understand something that our hyper-individualistic culture often misses. We're not meant to face life's challenges alone. Research by Dr. George Vaillant, who directed the Harvard study of adult development for over 3 decades, found that the quality of our relationships is the strongest predictor of life satisfaction and resilience. Christie's success wasn't just her own. It was supported by coaches who believed in her, family members who sacrificed for her training, and fellow skaters who pushed her to be better. This social dimension of resilience connects to something anthropologists call collective efficacy, the belief that we can work together to overcome challenges. Indigenous cultures around the world have understood this for millennia. They don't see resilience as a solo journey, but as a community practice, where stories of overcoming adversity are shared across generations, creating a collective wisdom. That strengthens everyone. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche captured this beautifully in his famous phrase, "What does not destroy me makes me stronger." But Nietzsche wasn't advocating for seeking out suffering. He was recognizing that suffering, when faced with the right mindset and support, can become a source of tremendous strength. He called this concept amor fati, which means love of fate, the ability to not just accept what happens to us, but to embrace it as necessary for our growth. Modern research has validated Nietzsche's insight in remarkable ways. Psychologists have identified something called post-traumatic growth, where people don't just recover from difficult experiences, but actually emerge stronger, wiser, and more capable than they were before. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending that bad things are actually good. It's about recognizing that our responses to adversity can unlock capacities we didn't know we possessed. The key lies in what researchers call meaning-making. Resilient people are exceptionally good at finding purpose and significance in their struggles. They ask different questions than most people do when faced with hardship. Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of, "How can I get back to normal?" they ask, "How can I use this experience to become who I'm meant to be?" This meaning-making process involves what psychologists call benefit finding, the ability to identify positive outcomes that resulted from negative experiences. When Christy looks back on her childhood struggles with her clubfoot, she doesn't see them as obstacles she overcame. She sees them as the source of her mental toughness. Those early years of physical therapy of being different from other children, of having to work twice as hard just to walk normally, built neural pathways of perseverance that served her throughout her skating career. That the brain science behind meaning-making is fascinating. When we find purpose in our struggles, our brains release a cocktail of neurochemicals, including dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins. These don't just make us feel better temporarily. They actually rewire our neural networks in ways that make us more resilient in the future. It's as if our brains reward us for finding meaning in adversity by making us stronger and more adaptable. This connects to one of the most powerful insights from positive psychology, the concept of learned optimism. Dr. Seligman discovered that optimism isn't just a personality trait, it's a learnable skill. Resilient people aren't naturally more optimistic. They've simply learned to pay attention to their explanatory style, the way they explain events to themselves. They've trained themselves to look for temporary rather than permanent causes, specific rather than universal explanations, and external rather than personal attributions when things go wrong. The ancient Stoics had a practice that perfectly embodies this principle. They called it the view from above, where they would imagine their current problems from the perspective of the cosmos, seeing their struggles as part of the larger human experience rather than personal failures. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the Roman Empire while facing plagues, wars, and personal tragedies, wrote in his private journal, "Remember that very little disturbs the balance of nature, and the universe itself would have to be torn apart before any one thing could truly harm the whole." This cosmic perspective isn't about minimizing our problems or pretending they don't matter. It's about placing them in a context that allows us to respond with wisdom rather than panic. When we zoom out from our immediate circumstances, we can see patterns and possibilities that aren't visible when we're caught up in the drama of the moment. Resilient people also understand something crucial about time. They live with what psychologists call an extended time perspective. They don't just focus on immediate gratification or short-term relief. They think in terms of months, years, and decades. This allows them to endure temporary discomfort for long-term gain, to see current struggles as investments in future strength. When Christy was training for the Olympics, there were countless mornings when she didn't want to get out of bed at 4:30 for practice. Her body ached, her social life was non-existent, and the path to her goal seemed impossibly long and uncertain. But she had developed what researchers call grit, which isn't just passion and perseverance, it's the ability to maintain effort and interest despite failures, adversity, and plateaus in progress. Dr. Angela Duckworth, who pioneered research on grit, found that it's a better predictor of success than talent, intelligence, or any other single factor. Gritty people understand that achievement is a marathon, not a sprint. They've learned to find satisfaction in the process itself, not just the outcomes. This is why they can persist when others give up. They're not just motivated by external rewards, but by an internal sense of purpose and growth. The Buddhist concept of beginner's mind captures this beautifully. It's the idea of approaching each moment with curiosity and openness, regardless of how much experience we have. Resilient people maintain this beginner's mind, even in the face of repeated setbacks. They don't become cynical or jaded. They remain hungry to learn and grow. This connects to one of the most important discoveries in resilience research, the power of yet. Carol Dweck's groundbreaking work on mindset revealed that simply adding the word yet to our self-talk can transform our relationship with failure. Instead of "I can't do this," we say "I do this yet." Instead of "I'm not good at this," we say "I'm not good at this yet." This tiny linguistic shift activates what she calls a growth mindset, the belief that our abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. That the neuroscience behind this is remarkable. When people with a growth mindset encounter failure, their brains show increased activity in areas associated with attention and processing. They're literally more engaged with their mistakes, more interested in learning from them. People with a fixed mindset, who believe their abilities are static, show decreased brain activity when they fail. They tune out, missing opportunities to learn and improve. Resilient people have learned to befriend failure, to see it as information rather than judgment. They understand that mastery requires what researchers call desirable difficulties, challenges that feel uncomfortable, but actually accelerate learning. This is why Christie's coach would sometimes make practice conditions deliberately harder than competition conditions, skating in dim lighting or on rough ice. It wasn't cruelty, it was preparation. When the real challenges came, her brain was already adapted to handle uncertainty and stress. This principle applies far beyond sports. In Silicon Valley, entrepreneurs talk about failing fast and embracing the pivot. They've learned that rapid iteration and course correction are more valuable than trying to get everything perfect the first time. Resilient people in all fields share this experimental mindset. They're constantly running small tests, gathering feedback, and adjusting their approach. The ancient Taoist philosophy captures this in the concept of Wu Wei, which is often translated as non-action, but really means flowing with circumstances rather than fighting against them. Like water, finding its way around obstacles, resilient people adapt their strategies without abandoning their goals. They understand that flexibility is strength, not weakness. This adaptive capacity requires what psychologists call cognitive flexibility, the mental ability to switch between thinking about different concepts or to think about multiple concepts simultaneously. It's like having a Swiss Army knife for the mind, with different tools for different challenges. Resilient people don't get stuck using the same approach when it's not working. They fluidly shift between different strategies and perspectives. The practice of gratitude plays a crucial role in building this cognitive flexibility. When we regularly focus on what we're thankful for, we're training our brains to notice positive aspects of our experience, even during difficult times. This isn't about denial or false positivity. It's about developing what researchers call emotional granularity for positive emotions, just as we do for negative ones. Dr. Robert Emmons, the leading researcher on gratitude, has found that people who practice gratitude regularly show increased activity in the prefrontal cortex and decreased activity in the stress response system. They literally rewire their brains to be more resilient. But the most profound effect isn't neurological, it's relational. Grateful people build stronger social connections, and strong relationships are the foundation of resilience. This brings us back to Christie's story. On February 21st, 1992, she stood at the center of an ice rink in Albertville, France, waiting for her scores in the Olympic figure skating competition. Years of training, sacrifice, and overcoming obstacles had led to this moment. When the judges announced that she had won gold, she didn't just celebrate her own victory. She thought about everyone who had supported her journey. Her parents who worked multiple jobs to pay for skating lessons, her coaches who believed in her when she didn't believe in herself, even the neighbors who donated those first oversized skates. This is perhaps the most important insight about resilience. It's not just about individual strength. It's about recognizing our interdependence with others and with life itself. Resilient people understand that we're all part of something larger than ourselves, whether we call it community, nature, the universe, or the human family. This understanding gives them access to sources of strength beyond their personal resources. Japanese have a beautiful concept called ikigai, which roughly translates to reason for being. It's found at the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. Resilient people have usually found their ikigai, not as a single career or achievement, but as an ongoing sense of purpose that transcends any particular circumstance. This purpose becomes their North Star, guiding them through storms and setbacks. When external conditions are chaotic, they have an internal compass that keeps them oriented toward what matters most. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, observed this phenomenon in the concentration camps. The people who were most likely to survive weren't necessarily the physically strongest, but those who maintained a sense of meaning and purpose, even in the most dehumanizing conditions. Frankl's insights led to the development of logotherapy, a form of psychotherapy based on the premise that our primary drive in life is not pleasure or power, but meaning. He wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. This choosing is the essence of resilience." So how do we cultivate this capacity in ourselves? The research suggests several practical approaches that anyone can implement. First is the practice of mental contrasting, where we imagine our desired future while also acknowledging the obstacles we'll need to overcome. This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. Our brains perform better when they've already considered potential challenges and developed contingency plans. Second is the development of what researchers call implementation intentions, specific if-then plans for how we'll respond to setbacks. Instead of just hoping we'll be resilient when challenges arise, we pre-decide our response patterns. If I fail at something important, then I'll take 24 hours to feel disappointed, and then I'll analyze what went wrong and adjust my approach. If I'm overwhelmed by stress, then I'll take 10 deep breaths and ask myself what would be most helpful right now. Third is the practice of expressive writing, where we spend 15 to 20 minutes writing about our deepest thoughts and feelings regarding difficult experiences. This isn't journaling or diary keeping. It's a specific therapeutic technique that helps us process emotions and find meaning in adversity. Research shows that people who engage in expressive writing show improved immune function, better emotional regulation, and increased resilience. Fourth is the cultivation of what Buddhists call loving kindness, extending compassion to ourselves and others. Self-compassion isn't self-indulgence. It's treating ourselves with the same kindness we'd offer a good friend who is struggling. Dr. Kristen Neff's research has shown that self-compassionate people are more resilient because they don't waste energy on self-criticism and shame when they face setbacks. Finally, there's the practice of savoring, deliberately focusing on positive experiences to enhance and extend their impact. When good things happen, resilient people don't just notice them, they savor them. They share them with others. They reflect on what made them possible. They allow themselves to fully experience the positive emotions. This builds what researchers call psychological capital, a reservoir of positive resources we can draw on during difficult times. These practices work because they address resilience at multiple levels: cognitive, emotional, social, and spiritual. They help us rewrite the stories we tell ourselves about adversity, develop better emotional regulation skills, strengthen our connections with others, and connect us to sources of meaning that transcend our immediate circumstances. But perhaps the most important thing to understand about resilience is that it's not a destination, it's a practice. We don't become resilient once and then remain that way forever. Like physical fitness, it requires ongoing attention and cultivation. Every challenge we face is an opportunity to strengthen our resilience muscles, to become a little more skilled at navigating life's inevitable storms. Kristi Yamaguchi's Olympic gold medal is beautiful, but it's not the most important part of her story. What matters most is how she transformed her early struggles into sources of strength, how she learned to see obstacles as opportunities, and how she used her success to lift others up. Today, she runs a foundation that provides literacy programs for underserved children, understanding that resilience isn't just about personal achievement, but about using our strengths to serve something larger than ourselves. This is the ultimate. Paradox of resilience. The more we focus solely on our own strength and success, the more fragile we become. True resilience comes from recognizing our interconnection with others, our dependence on forces beyond our control, and our responsibility to contribute to the common good. It's not about being invulnerable. It's about being courageously vulnerable, open to growth, change, and connection, even in the face of uncertainty. As you face your own challenges, remember that resilience isn't about never falling down. It's about always getting back up. It's not about avoiding pain. It's about transforming pain into wisdom. It's not about being strong enough to handle everything alone. It's about being wise enough to ask for help and to offer help to others. The capacity for resilience lives within each of us, waiting to be awakened, not by the absence of struggle, but by our willingness to engage with struggle as a path to becoming who we're truly meant to be. The science is clear. Resilience can be learned, practiced, and strengthened. The philosophy is ancient. Adversity can be a teacher if we're willing to be students. The choice is yours. Will you let your setbacks define your limits, or will you use them as stepping stones to heights you never imagined possible? The frozen lake is waiting. The oversized skates are laced up, and the first tentative step toward transformation is yours to take.